This is Reed Gray, the old Robo Hippy, back again down in Roseburg, Oregon with friend and fellow woodturner Fred Uggla. This is about the big ugly tool. Fred was trained by Tracy Hassett, who was maybe not the inventor, but definitely a developer of it. And Fred is definitely a master of this tool, and he's going to show you how he does things.
Well, I appreciate the introduction. I started using the tool having been given training by Tracy. All of this was back probably about 15 or 18 years ago. And I can honestly say that it revolutionized my wood turnings to the point where after having a couple of days of instruction from Tracy, I have not used or even touched any of the traditional tools ever since. I use these exclusively. They cover all my needs from spindle turning to faceplate turning, bowls, anything along that line. So they cover my general purposes in all of the orders that I try to fill. There are three basic big ugly tools that I use. You can, granted, make other different shapes and sizes, but these are the three that came directly from Tracy, and I found that they work quite well for me. And I have stayed and tried to stay true to the grinds that he used in his business. Now the first one is this one. This is the smallest of the big ugly. It's double-ended. You've got a scraper at this end, and this would be a good end to do your all basic coves and such with. It's approximately 20 inches long. It's made from steel stock, rolled steel stock that is a 1/2 inch vertically by 3/8 in width. The next one up is approximately 28 inches long. It is, let's see, what do we got? 9/16 square stock. Again, it has both a scraper end and a pointed end for doing your detail work. And the tan tongue on this is 5/8. This is 5/8 tan tongue. The tan tongue on the small one measures out at 1/2 inch. Now on the largest one, this is the largest of the three tools. It's about 30 inches long, 32 inches long. The length is immaterial. It just adds weight to it. But again, we have on both ends, this end we have a scraper. The material on this is 7/8 from this on this side to 1/2 inch right here. And the tan tongue material, just remember this is 7/8, the tan tongue material is 1 inch. On this one, the tip is different, and this is the one I use for bowls. Bowls, platters, and general faceplate turning. This is the tip of the smallest of the three tools that I just showed you. Now, this is the end where you do your detail work, and what I want to show you is the bevel here. This is approximately 60 degrees, and if you turn this up on end, think of it as the bow of a ship, and try to get yourself equal portions and have the absolute apex of this right directly in the middle. And I'll show you how to grind it in a minute. Now on the other end, this is your scraper end. Again, we're working approximately 60 degrees. And there's a reason for that, which we'll get into later. This is the top of the scraper right here. And this is the profile. And the profile should be at about 60 degrees. Okay, this is the medium-sized tool. And again, here is the profile. Again, it's about 60 degrees. To show you the tip, it is just about the same as the other one was. And on this other end, we'll flip this over. This is the scraper end. Here's your profile at around 60 degrees. And this is the top view. Basic reason for the intermediate tool is that it's a little heavier duty, and it will help you to hog out more material quicker.
Okay.
This is the biggest of the Big Uglies, and here is your profile view. Again, following that same degree, 60 degrees. Here is your top view, showing that there is a slight overlap of the piece of tan tongue, which is slightly wider than the piece of material. Now to flip this to the other end, this is the one that I use for bowl turning. And again, here is your approximate 60 degree profile. And that profile carries all the way around this edge. You need to maintain that same degree as you're sharpening all the way around the edge. Here is your top view. And again, this piece of tan tongue is just slightly wider than the stock that it's made from. Okay, as with any turning tool, sharpness is critically important. One of the aspects of the Big Ugly tools and how they are made is that they're made with a piece of tan tongue G material. Tan tongue is harder than carbide. It sharpens better and easier, and because of the chemical composition, it tends to hold its edge longer. You'd be absolutely amazed if you make one of these tools as to how long the sharpness will endure while you're turning versus some of even the fanciest of the traditional turning tools. Now, in sharpening this, you need a 6-inch 60 grit stone. And basically on a 6-inch, if you're buying a typical bench grinder, you're going to get that very stone. You don't need anything fancy. You don't need to get anything along the line of a 200 grit or any of the really expensive stones. These standard old stones that come with the machines are all you really need to do to get yourself an edge that is very usable. The nice part about the Tan Tongue G is that the burr that is produced with a 60 grit is very, very minor, and you do not, under any circumstance, want to remove it with a stone. Use the tool as it comes away from the wheel. So in showing you how to sharpen it, before I sharpen this, I do want to state that if you make one of these tools and you grind the shape from the very beginning when you first make them, one of the kind of neat things about tan tongue is that it's okay to get it glowing red hot. Just do not under any circumstance quench it. Let it come back to room temperature normally, or it's liable to shatter. As hard as this material is, the only other thing that can happen to it is if you drop it, it can break. It sounds funny, but that can happen. In the use it's intended for, boy, it'll give you years of service and very few sharpenings. Let's sharpen the smallest of the Big Uglies. First thing you do is you find your bevel and look for sparks to come off of the tip, and you slowly rotate to the left and back to center. Then do that again and rotate slowly right and back to center, looking for sparks to come off of the top of the tan tongue. And you try to grind it so that you come up with as close to a single facet as possible. Now let's switch to the other end, and it's the same thing. You start your bevel, you push it up to the wheel itself till you get sparks come off of the top of it, and there you can see how long it took, which was just a few seconds, and you've got a good workable edge. We're going to skip the medium one because it's the same as the smallest one. Now this is the largest of the Big Uglies. On the scraper end, find your bevel again and then go until you get the sparks come off the top, and slowly go back and forth, creating a very slight curve at the top, but looking for that same single facet. Now on the curved end of it, for your bowls, it's the same thing. We're going to work to try and stay at 60 degrees. You'll start from the outside edge, work your way toward the end, and back again, and possibly do it a couple of times. Flipping it over, look at that. You've got a single facet and a good sharp surface to work with. Now let's see what the tool can do on the lathe itself. I'm going to work with myrtle wood today, and these tools do work best with a very straight-grained hardwood material. Myrtle wood is ideal here in Oregon for it. What I thought I would do is show you the different cuts that the tool will make, and that'll give you a variety of an idea of what it can do for you. And then I thought what I'd do is to take the same block here, and maybe we'll just come up with a piece that looks like this for you, and show you that it can do some moderately delicate work too. Okay, I'm going to use a screw chuck here for my demonstration. And what I like to do with the screw, it makes it a lot easier to wind the piece on and off, is I just put a little dabble of wax on here. I use a tree wax, clear paste wax, but really any type of wax can work, beeswax or Vaseline if you like, or anything along that line. Okay, I'm going to put this onto the screw chuck now, and we'll tighten it up here. And what I find works well with me in installing this is to just use a spanner wrench. It saves your wrists a great deal of wear and tear, which mine have had over the years. Then I push the stop in and I snug it up, and I'm ready to go. Now I wanted to explain a little bit more about the tool itself as it actually is in use. First of all, isn't it easier? The reason I have tips on both ends of this, rather than making this into two individual tools. A lot of people prefer having just one tip and then putting a handle on it. But to me, if you're going to do any kind of production turning, or you want a very quick turnover from one tool to the other, the best thing to do, I'm going to pretend this is the end that's in use, is you've done what you need to do here. Isn't it much easier to just flip it over like this than to go hunt for your spindle gouge or your whichever other gouge you want to go use? So this is quite a time saver if you ask me. Now, the reason for the gloves. You have a very sharp surface here. When you're hanging on to this tool, the problem is you can cut yourself. A basic and simple reason. So that's the reason I wear gloves. You really would have to be willing to put gloves on to do this. All right, today I'm going to be using a Powermatic 4224, and I generally find that the maximum RPM gives you the smoother cut. It may be the same with all the other tools that are out there as well, but we're going to be working at about 3,650 RPM. It really does throw some chips and makes it all go a little bit quicker. So we're going to turn this on now. Wait for it to get to speed. And let's round this off first. now that we have a basic dowel, let's show you what difference using the other end makes. Using the scraper end, and you're going ahead and doing what you need to do here. Isn't it much easier, rather than having two tools, isn't it much easier to just flip this over and then make your next cut? So now what I want to do now is to show you the difference between the scraper cut and using this end of it to just give you a good shearing cut. So what I'm going to do is just lightly touch, and I'm going to go halfway. Maybe I'll go over it a second time here. I'm going halfway. Alright, this is that same piece of wood. Now that we've made both cuts, I'd like to just show you that this is the original, which is untouched after using the scraper. And this is with the shearing cut. This is obviously a much smoother piece than this is, and virtually you'll have to do very, very little sanding if you're using a sharp tool. Okay, why don't we make a finial out of this piece of wood, and I'll show you some of the cuts that it makes. First of all, come in here, and I was told originally as I first learned how to use this to go where I want to go. You can go all the way into what you want to leave as material. Now to avoid vibration, what we want to do is let's figure out what we want to do with the tip. And if you put this down so that you have a slight angle to it, then go ahead and roll it. You roll it in both directions. Come over the top and roll it. And form a ball for the top of this. Now, if you want to put a cove in here, just come in and go both ways. And if you want to put a ball into this, let's turn this, and we're going to put another ball in here. Maybe we'll put two little discs here, two little beads. And now, let's work our way in further. Let's go ahead and maybe put another pair of discs equally spaced in here. And let's see, let's go over here and we'll put another ball up. Pair of discs. We'll remove some more material. And let's do a deeper, longer cone here. Let's add a couple more discs. a little decoration down here, so all I'm going to do is do a smooth cut. Right like that. Now I'll show you on this end for your detail work. Here's another very smooth cut. You can either draw it toward you, that works, or a better cut is this one. You just meet your bevel here, whoops, meet your bevel, and we'll show you when we stop the camera what you wind up with. And if you want to turn this into a little bit of a disc here, this is fine. I'm going to go one more time over this. By the looks of that, I better go one more. Okay. Now, show you that you know, there's no reason you can't just spruce this up even a little bit more. And let's put a couple little detail lines in. There we go. If you want to add a couple of things here, and we should be done. Well, this is an example of how quickly you can do this type of finial. All you need to do after this is basically just a little touch-up sanding and spray your finish and you're done. I thought what we'd do this time is, this is a quick little project, just basically a 6-inch lighthouse. Show you the efficiency of the tool and how quickly you can do this. Now you'll notice in here I have a burn, but let's flip the tool over. Let's take a very light cut. You don't have to worry about going in and sanding that at all. There's a very light cut here just to get rid of the burn. And again, it's the same thing. Now, let's form the little walkway up here. Let's put a little bit of a fancy right here. And I'm going to take another cut. There we go. And we'll come down here. We'll do the same thing. Enter from above. Roll your tool. That gives you a nice bead. Now up here, again, pushing this away, it gives you a if you do this slowly, it gives you a very smooth cut. Now all you need to do is the finial. A little ball up there. And a little more detail. And we're done. We have a lighthouse. Now we have a lighthouse, ready to sand and finish, and you're all set. Before we get into a faceplate turning demonstration, I'd like to show you one other piece. The fellow that taught me, Tracy Hassett, I happened to mention to him when I was over there getting my education from him that my sales rep was interested in having me make goblets, and I said, well, you know, the problem is I can't make one in a timely enough fashion to make any money at it. So Tracy says, well, I don't know why, and he put it on his lathe. His lathe was set up for 4,000 RPM. He turned this in about 4 minutes flat, and I know that it's hard to see on camera, but there's no sanding whatsoever. You got a wall thickness about 1/8 of an inch, and it's just about perfect. I can't do that yet. I've only been at it 20 years. I thought for a faceplate demonstration, I'd show you a shallow dish. This is 6 inches in diameter, and it's made from myrtle wood. This will be the front side, obviously, and flipping it over, this is the back side. And this will all be done with the Big Ugly. So let's get started. Okay, we're going to take the blank. We have a hole set up here so that we can go onto this screw chuck with a shortened screw. The screw length is 5/8 of an inch, so that the hole has been drilled accordingly, and this is a 1-inch piece of material, so it'll leave you about at least 1/4 inch to so that you won't go through it. First thing we need to do is to mark for the rebate in the center of the piece. So that's just what I'm going to do here. That's just about right. Okay, now let's take it up. Again, it's 3,600 RPM. Now I do have good use for a skew, and that's to make the rebate to put it on the next chuck. So I'm going to go in here, nice smooth cut, and I'm going to put a little trim just for decoration right there. Now we take the Big Ugly, and here we go. Ugly, you do not want to lay flat. You want to come up with a slight angle, and it gives you a little shearing cut. Watch the dust come off of this. And we're done with the back. The thing I'd like to emphasize is that the shavings that you get are shavings. If you get powder, sawdust off of it, you haven't done your part. You need a sharper tool. But sometimes you can wind up with 10 or 12 inch shavings off of these things, and I find it quite interesting. Nice and lacy. All right, let me set up this chuck, and I'm going to put the dish on here, snug it. Let's bring up our tool rest. Okay, here we go. You cut until you eliminate the hole. Makes a little noise. Okay, now for your final cut, tip your tool up further. Draw it toward you, and that should give you a nice, smooth finish cut. Okay, the shavings that I got off of this dish are indeed that. They're shavings. It's not dust. So you're not doing your work if you do not have a good sharp edge on your tool. And as a final product, we have our dish with the rebate, everything cut in. It's ready to sand. It is smooth. You do not have to do a lot of sanding with it. And on the other side, there's your dish itself. So sanding's all that's necessary. You can probably start with about 150 or 180 and go from there, and you're done.
Well, I don't know if I should thank you or not for letting me come down here, because now I'm going to have to go home and experiment around with a couple of different grinds on my Big Ugly tools that I have. But that's the Big Ugly tool. It is a scraper, can be used on high shear cuts. And if you have any questions specifically for Fred, we're going to include an email link down below under the show more part. So thank you for having me.
No, thank you for asking me to do this, and I'd also just like to add that there is so much more that we could do that isn't really allowed within the time restraints we had today. So if there's enough requests, I'd be more than happy to show you some of the other intricacies of the tool. And as he stated, there's a link down below as to how to get in touch with me. And I want to thank everybody for watching, and let's hope we get a lot of hits.